Alright, this is me on neighbor conflict from a landlord's perspective, from a cop's perspective, maybe even a little bit of a psychoanalysis perspective. Uh, Naturally, in relationships, we have our conflicts, and you're gonna have your conflict. It's just whether the conflict's a toxic one or not, where you can get along with your neighbor, or you're gonna have to one's gonna have to leave or go about its way. Uh, you can either resolve your issues, get along and get better into the next conflict. But sometimes you need to bring a mediator in. That could be a landlord or someone from the HOA or the police. Uh, it's a tough subject. Nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants, because you should. I guess naturally you should know how to love your neighbor and you should get along with your neighbor. Some people don't see it that way. Some people don't want to get along with their neighbors. Some people want to beef with their neighbors, and that's what the conflict's all about. They don't like who their neighbors are. They don't feel loved or valued, or they don't feel respected by their neighbors. So they conflict with their neighbors. Uh, Really, as long as you're not hurting them, like laying physical harm on them, or damaging their property, or making sure they endangering them or their security is not well. I mean, everything should be well as a neighbor. Uh, you gotta make sure you look after your neighbor. Make sure nobody's robbing them. Make sure nobody's beating them up. If somebody were to try to beat up your neighbor, you will have to stand up for your neighbor and take care of that matter and that issue. You'll have to stand on the behalf, no matter what type of neighbor you have, whether he's a Klan member, whether he's a Nazi German, whether he's a Blood or a Crip or whatever your neighbor is. You're gonna have to stand up for him, and fight whoever he's fighting, or whoever they're fighting. If somebody comes out there in the street, let's say he's a Blood and a Crip comes along, you're gonna have to defend your neighbor from a Crip beating up your Blood neighbor, and so on and so forth. So besides that, you make sure that nobody came in unattendedly when they were in at home, at work, or in the store, or whatever, or at the movie theater. You make sure that that they have unattended on once. You guys get to know their people. Their people get to know yours, and you get to know what you could look from each other. Uh, Getting to know your neighbor happens over time. It's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes it even takes years. And hopefully, hopefully you get along very well. You don't got to make them happy. They don't got to make you happy. But it's wise that you would exchange gifts, some wine to one another, a fruit basket to one another, whatever seems accommodating, whatever seems something that'll make you happy in the relationship with dealing with them, where you're able to fix their problems and they're able to fix yours. You love your neighbor to the end of the relationship, however long it's got to be. I mean, some people can't sit, room to room with each other, where they're gonna have to leave each other, and they want their neighbor to be evicted, or they want them to walk out or leave early in their relationship. And it's not fair for nobody. But the thing is, you gotta be fair for the relationship. And as a landlord and as a tenant, it's to monitor the behavior. It's to control the behavior, is to make sure they're not, being too volatile with the neighbors, where you're able to live side by side with each other, and nobody is doing damage to the property or harming. They're able to live comfortably in their home, safe in their home, secure in their home. They're able to enjoy themselves. They're able to watch the movies. They're able to eat. They're able to do whatever they gotta do. They're able to live in their living arrangements the way they want to. Without somebody disturbing their peace in their home, trying to control, manipulate, and running them from being a neighbor to a neighbor. In apartment complexes, the walls and the floors are very thin. Everything is heard, so you just gotta tolerate some things. You gotta be able to make sure that you get along well, uh, that you're able to make some sacrifices in the relationship, and know what privilege to give to your neighbors if they deserve it, and if they've been good enough, you give them the reward, and they have the privileges they want to have with you as a neighbor, and they're able to go by as well as that. That's from a sociologist type of psychology type of standpoint. As a cop, you don't want to arrest the neighbors. But if they were to lay physical harm, abuse you while you're drunk or high, whatever, because nowadays, you could get high in marijuana in your house, and they want, or you had sex with your girlfriend, and you were drunk and high or something. They came into your house and beat you up and robbed you for your money and took you for your car and stuff. you're gonna have to press charges and get the neighbor arrested and evicted, where they go to jail, and they have a criminal record on them, and they do the time, and you may even need to put them on the news, where if they choose to, whether they want to live with the humiliation or not. But everybody in the community knows who they are, and what they've done, and what type of neighbor you're dealing with. So uh, you don't want to be racially biased. You don't want to be prejudiced. You don't want to judge your neighbors. You want to be indiscriminate, not care who your neighbors are. You want to be indiscriminate. You take your neighbors the way you take a poker card game, and you do the best you can with the card game and try to get a winning hand out of it, where you get along well, you work well with them, where they work well with you. You introduce yourself to them, they introduce yourself, they let you know who their friends, their families are. You let them know who your friends and family are, and you don't really got to get too involved, where you're in the refrigerator and they're in yours, and you're sleeping in each other's bed and pants, and and you're wifed up now with them having children. You don't need to go that route. You could set boundaries between the neighbors, and make sure you negotiate wants and needs with one another, and they understand you and get you very well. You should be able to communicate with your neighbors. Some neighbors don't want to be disturbed and bothered. We understand that, so you got to talk to them however you can, and if you can, you send them the police, you send them the landlords, and maybe they convey the message that way. But some neighbors don't want to be communicated with. They don't want to be talked to. They don't want you knocking on their door. And my house is open, always available. You can talk to me and ask me for anything you want. As long as I have it, I'm willing to give it to you. But I'm not one to lend money. I'm not one to lend money to my neighbors. I don't lend money to my neighbors, and I do what's best for my neighbor. If they needed an extra water bottle or a soda and I had it, they could have the soda. If they needed somebody to help them work on the garage with them, I'm willing to help them out. But as long as they don't need my help and I don't need theirs, we should be fine with one another. I respect their privacy. They should respect yours. You should get to know what's going on in their lives, though, even though, and just also something were to happen, you would know what's going on with your neighbor, and that they didn't just disappear on you and walk out. So so someone came looking for them, you would have something to tell the person that came in looking for them. Uh, Pretty much, it's just people have their problems, their troubles, and their issues, and sometimes it seems like they're trying to pick a beef or a battle with you, and it's just some people don't know how to resolve their matters personally with one another. That it's just hard hard to work around with them, and you just gotta be the better man, better woman, and just learn how to cooperate and work out the differences with one another, and make sure you get along well. And that's pretty much about it.